Hey everybody, I have come today to share a really simple recipe with you all. I did this recipe a little while back and I had some people really love the taste of it, and it's very easy. One pot, one and done. And I use paper plates because nobody wants to do dishes right after they've cooked a full meal. Nobody should be doing dishes after they cooked a full meal anyway. That's a different story. People who eat should clean up. People who cook should stick to that. But anyway, let's get going. A while ago, I started a little catering company called Dutch and Rio. And in doing so, I also created a seasoning. And so my seasoning is going to be featured in this video as well. But right now, we're just going to get started. I'm going to start by putting some oil in the pan, about 2 tablespoons. And let that heat up. The whole point of this recipe is to cook your pasta, your vegetables, and your meats, one pot, paper plates to put all of your things to the side. And then once you're done, you got your pot to clean at the end of the meal, and that's all. So now that oil is heating up, we're gonna add about 3 to 4 chicken breasts is what the recipe that I use calls for. These chicken breasts were kind of big. So we're just gonna use 2. Now, what we'll do is we'll let these brown for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side. You notice that I put the whole chicken in here. The reason that I did that is so that the chicken can cook, and once it's done, I'll transfer it to a paper plate. We'll cut it into strips, or you can cut it into dice-sized pieces so that it meets with your preference, you know, how you want to do it. If you want it diced, you want it stripped, however you want it is fine. But we're just going to make sure the chicken gets done. And so once it gets done, we'll come back in just a few minutes. All right, so 8 to 10 minutes, chicken is done. If you look in the pot, you'll see the juices have started to run clear. That means your chicken is done. Now notice, I kept the chicken pieces whole. I didn't cut them up into dice-sized pieces just so that it would cook evenly. And another thing that I did was that I pounded the meat so that the breasts would be as even as possible before I even put them in the pan and season them, because I wanted them to cook evenly. So now these are ready to come out. We're just gonna keep it right there. Now remember, paper plates, y'all. We ain't got time for no dishes. All right, and we're just gonna set that to the side. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add our sausage. Now, I use beef sausage. Now, I know some of y'all may wanna use turkey. Turkey's fine. You can use pork if you want. I understand. I grew up eating the rooter to the tooter. But when I'm looking for healthier cuts, I generally will go with turkey. And I found a really good beef sausage that I like. And I've been using that lately. So we start just putting our meat in here, browning it up, and getting it nice. And when the edges just get a little bit crispy is what we're going to look for. So we just start the beef in there. We don't add any more oil because the beef has its own oil, and it's blending in with those chicken drippings that were already in the pan before we put those in. Remember, this is one pot. We're not changing anything out. We're not doing anything different. Keeping it all in one pot, okay? So we're gonna put that sausage in. And then right on top of that sausage, we're gonna add our vegetables. Now, our vegetables are just a medley of peppers and onions. So here we have it. We've got our beautiful yellow peppers, green, red, and orange. And we're just gonna slide them right on into the pan. And we're gonna saute these in the juices of the peppers until they get nice and soft. All right. So while that's getting cooked up here, we're going to kind of mix that up a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about how we season that chicken. Now, generally with chicken, about a teaspoon, a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon per pound of meat is going to make that chicken have, you know, enough salt. So about a half a teaspoon of salt, shaken on pepper to the way you like it. And then we added 2 heaping teaspoons of this. This is called Dutch and Rio, oh my soul, all-purpose seasoning. And we rubbed a little bit of that on the chicken on both sides before we added it to our pan. Now this right here, that's a split right there. That's a split right there, okay? This is the seasoning that our family has been working on for the last couple of years, and it's here, y'all. It is finally debuted, and we are so proud of this. It's got a really good bold blend, and you can cook it with other seasonings that you use, or you can just use it by itself. And in this case, we're just using salt and pepper to taste, and we're using our seasoning right here. And so you're going to get a really good flavor with this. If you're cooking for the holidays, this is what you want on your cabinet, because you can use this on your turkey. You can really use it on anything. This pasta dish is much more improved with it than without it. So I'm telling you, you all really need to order. You can go to our website, dutchandrio.com/shop, or just dutchandrio.com, and you'll find it there, and you can order you some. But in the meantime, let's get back to the recipe. So we're just going to let that onion juice, or excuse me, not onion juice, but we're going to let that sausage drippings and juice get all down in those vegetables, so those vegetables get nice and tender. So I'm going to let you cook yours. I'm going to cook mine, and we'll be back in about a minute. So those peppers have been cooking for a while, and you see they're starting to cook down a little bit. So now we add the rest of our vegetables. This is where we add our onions. Okay, we're going to add 1 small yellow onion. I'm going to let that cook down. It's just chopped nice bite-sized pieces. And then 2 green onions cut diagonally. Just put those in there too, just like that. Now this is the thing about this dish. You see how colorful and pretty it is? People eat with their eyes. I know I do. And I know that when I look at my plate, I like to see the colors come together. And doesn't that look pretty? Doesn't it just look so appetizing? You've got the beautiful green peppers, got the red and the yellow and the orange. And you see, this is how your sausage should start to come looking at, caramelized on the edges like that. And then if you see the onions are starting to get clear, that's what you want them to look like. You want those peppers to start wilting down until they're softened, which we're just about there. We've got about maybe about another 2 minutes into this before the peppers are soft enough and the onions are clear and the beautiful sausages are caramelized around the edges. So we're going to let that cook a few more minutes, about a couple more minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so this is how your sausage and vegetables will look when they're cooked down to the right consistency. You see your peppers and your onions are clear and soft, and your sausages are caramelized. So now we're ready to go to the next thing, all right? So we're going to keep what juices we have in the pan. We might need to add just a little bit more oil. I'd say about a teaspoon of oil. And we're going to get that sort of moved around the pan. And now we're going to saute our tomatoes. This is just 2 Roma tomatoes that I have cut down into small diced pieces. Now, I've heard some people say, if this is supposed to be quick, why do we have to use diced tomatoes? You can use fresh or you can use canned. Do your thing. Do what you want to do. I, however, like the freshness of the vegetables because it just makes everything just seem so fresh and delicious. And it really doesn't take that long to cut up two, you know, pretty nice sized Roma tomatoes. So with the oil in the pan, the tomatoes are going to cook down. All right, and that's going to not take very long. That's going to take maybe a minute, 2 at the most. We don't really have to get these tomatoes to come down to mush, but we do want to cook them until they're very soft. So while those are doing that, I guess I'll tell you a little bit more about Dutch and Rio Seasoning. We are about to have our lunch in about a week, our grand lunch, and we've just been doing some things here at Dutch and Rio to get ready. We had a cooking session a while back with some ladies, and we did this recipe, and we got such an overwhelming response. And I think mostly it was because of the fact that the seasoning is already prepared. You just got one seasoning to go to with your salt and pepper. And the fact that you have one pot, no dirty dishes, you can get this baby done in about 20 to 30 minutes. So if you have kids and family and you're trying to get out of the house, you're not trying to spend a whole lot of time in the kitchen, but you want something really good and you want something that's quick, this is the thing. This is it right here. So we're going to let these tomatoes cook a little bit longer. And then we're going to do a process called deglazing the pan. And all that is where you see this stuff that's sticking to the pan with the oils and the tomato and everything, we're going to raise it up like you raise a roof. Yeah, raise the roof. Raise the flavor with a little bit of the reserved pasta water. So as you see, the tomatoes have cooked down. Now this is where we add the 1 cup of reserved pasta water. Now you're going to see this recipe attached in the link, so don't worry about it. And then if you want to go to my YouTube, yes, Lord, I broke down and made a YouTube. Not like I have a lot of time and I like to be in front of the camera, but so many people ask me how I cook things when they taste my food. So I thought I'd start sharing some recipes with people. So now we're just going to pour that pasta water in there and just let it kind of come to a boil with those tomatoes. This is so easy, y'all, and it's so good. It tastes like you probably put hours into it and a lot of effort. But really, it's a matter of just getting your vegetables chopped, boiling your noodles, setting them to the side, remembering to keep your cup of pasta water after you finish boiling your noodles. Don't throw away that pasta water. That pasta water kind of thickens up around the tomatoes and makes its own little tomato sauce. You see how it's thickening up a little bit? That's from the starch in the noodles. That way you don't have to add any butter or anything extra to sort of get it to become thick. All right? And the only other thing you have to do is get your cream sauce together, which is just your block of cream cheese. And you're going to use between half a block and a block, and then a cup of half and half. So now there those tomatoes are starting to pick up a little bit of a boil there. All right, got a little bit of stray onion in there. That happens in cooking. It's all good. And just let that continue to pick up a boil a little bit. And then the next thing we're going to do is add our cream sauce. All right, so those tomatoes have cooked down, made its own little sauce, okay? And now this is where we add our cream sauce, and that's where you put your block of cream cheese and you dissolve it right there. I know it looks kind of foamy there, but you dissolve it into your half and half. And this is where you get your cream sauce, okay? And we just get all that good stuff in there, okay? And we're gonna bring that back to a boil. But you see already you're getting that creamy tomato sauce. And this is what is going to be the base for your pasta, your chicken, and your vegetables. And it is gonna be so good. And you know, and we used to say, make you slap your mama. My daddy used to say that all the time. My grandma used to say, I wish you would. So we got that in there, and then this is where we bring it to a boil, but we're gonna add one thing. And this is where we come back in with more of this good stuff. Now, remember, we use 2 teaspoons of this with a half a teaspoon of salt and pepper on the chicken before we browned it. Now we're gonna take 2 heaping teaspoons full and put it in the sauce to give it that papaya, the flavor. So here we go. And there it is. And you see that's coming to a boil there. We just want to bring it to a simmer. We don't really want to hard cook it because it's already done. About a minute to 2 minutes to let it thicken. Just sort of incorporate the seasoning in there, get all the little pockets. Oh, it smells so good. Ooh. That's your sauce. Now, one thing we have to add to this is where we add just our Parmesan cheese. Now, you can use a shredded Parmesan or a shaved Parmesan. That's entirely up to you. Turn that down just a little. I like coming through with shaved Parmesan. Shaved Parmesan is just a little bit thicker in consistency. You can use about 4 to 6 ounces of that. And you just bring that in. That's how that makes that sauce take on that good sort of cheesy flavor. But not string cheesy. It's just when you add Parmesan, you just get a nice cheesy flavor. And it's just so good. And you see it's starting to thick up now. This is where we can turn our heat down and let it bubble like that. And then we're getting ready to add the good stuff back in it, y'all. This is where we just bring all of the layers that we cooked. We cooked the chicken. We set it to the side. We cooked the vegetables. We set those to the side. And then we had our pasta pre-cooked that's going in here, and it's all gonna come together. Now remember, we did paper plates, and don't judge me on my paper plates because Dixie and I are friends. And that paper plates keeps you from having to do any dishes or from anybody else having to. And that way the family can enjoy each other without having to do anything but one pot, y'all. One pot, that's it. So we're gonna come back in a second. We're gonna make sure all those layers that we're about to bring in are ready to go back into our pot. All right, so we're in the stretch with this. And again, this Dutch and Rio seasoning takes this dish a long way. I have a funny story. When I first did this dish with a women's group about a month or so ago, we used the Dutch and Rio seasoning, and we did this very same recipe. Walked them through from beginning to end. And one of the young ladies who decided to make the recipe again after we had done the cooking show had not purchased the seasoning. She messaged me in Facebook and she said that she had tried the recipe and her family told her, go to the website and order some of that stuff because it doesn't taste the same. So I'm not just saying that, folks. I'm telling you, we have people who already have kitchen tested this stuff and it's good. I mean, you'll be doing yourself a favor just to try it. But I thought that would be fun to share because it really does. It really adds something special to the food. And again, this is originally formulated. This is not pre-measured or packaged by any other company that I've just slapped a label on. This is something that has gone back and forth to the drawing board. We've been measuring, adding a little bit of this, taking a little bit of this away, till we got something that we were very proud of. So we're glad to say that this right here, this is going to make the dish. And a lot of other dishes that I'm gonna cook from here on out, you're gonna see this go in it. Sometimes I cook with it alone. This dish, I'm just cooking with salt and pepper, and with this, some dishes I might add other things to it. But it's really an all-purpose seasoning. It's got a really bountiful, full flavor that I really think you'll like if you try it. So let's get back to this. So we got our sauce. Ooh, look how creamy that is, y'all. That's where all of the cheese, the parmesan, the half a block of cream cheese, and that half and half have cooked down and made a nice, rich, creamy sauce. And this is where we add back our pasta, our cooked pasta. And we're just gonna get that nice and evenly incorporated into this pan. Now your pan is gonna be full, but that's okay. Full pan means full eyes. People see with their eyes, they're gonna say, "Oh, look at all that food." And people be full before they start eating. Oh, but seriously, we're big eaters in my house, and we always have leftovers. And it's good the next day too, guys, because then that seasoning gets through all of that pasta and all of the vegetables and everything. So then we're just gonna incorporate some of that sauce right there and just kind of pull it over the noodles a little bit before we add the other layers. Ooh, look at it, Lord Jesus, can't wait to eat it. You can hear it too. Listen. Ooh, yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Ooh, yes, really, really, really delicious stuff here. Oh, look at all that creamy goodness. I pull it up from the bottom. Look at those tomatoes, and they're just laying so beautifully right there on the pasta. So we're gonna make a nice little sort of well in there. Keep it right there. And this is where we start to bring in our vegetables. Make sure we get those beautiful sausages in there. I especially love red peppers. I don't know what it is about those red peppers and what it does, but it looks and tastes so good. It adds so much to the dish. And then we're gonna put in our chicken. Now again, you can slice your chicken. You can dice your chicken. Uh-oh, got a little bit out there. That's all right, it's live, but it happens. And we're gonna add all that good chicken back into the pan. And we're gonna give it a nice little toss, and then we're gonna top it with just a little bit of that grated cream cheese. And just get all of that good meat in there, because I promise you, you're gonna want every bite. Now I know that pot looks full, and it is. But once we get it mixed in and get all those beautiful flavors in there and mixed in there, it's gonna be so good, so good. So we're just gonna take another spoon here again and just kind of incorporate all of that goodness together and just pile it up in that pan. Look at that. And get all of that together. Now, we're gonna plate up a little bit. Dinner is gonna be ready. So let's get that all incorporated. Gonna do it carefully so we don't have more outside the pot than inside the pot. But as you can hear, that creamy cheese is caressing those noodles. And that chicken, I'm gonna bring it all the way to the top so that we see all of that goodness. And it's really a filling dinner. And you've got all your vegetables and your pasta and your chicken and sausage in one pot. There's nothing else needed. Nothing else. We're gonna get that incorporated, and we're gonna plate this up some, and we're coming right back. All right, there it is. A pan full of goodness, one pan, Bayou chicken and pasta, and all seasoned with this right here. Oh my soul, Dutch and Rio seasoning. My grandmother used to say, oh my soul, when something tasted good, or she would say, oh my soul, if something looked appetizing to her, or if it even startled her, but she would always say that. And that's what we feel every time we take a bite of something seasoned with this good stuff. So that's the inspiration for Dutch and Rio, oh my soul seasoning. So we are again on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and now we're getting ready to start a new YouTube, guys. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not the type who's used to being in front of camera. I've never been one who's been a seeker for the camera. So I really felt like it was something that I should do so that I could connect with people through good food, because good food is the way that we can bring people together. So now we're gonna just take all of this good flavor and we're gonna get ready to taste it. And if you can see all of those good flavors, we just put a little bit more of the grated parmesan cheese on top and a little bit more seasoning. I just sprinkled to dust it. Let's get a bite of everything in there. It's a big bite. Who's ready to eat? That's it, right there. Wow.